And welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for this morning on Open Your Eyes as we focus our thoughts on speeding. And for today, we're going to be joined by the non-communicable officer, for focal point that is, for PAHO, Dr. Jorge Polanco. We have Pamela Scott of the Road Safety Project. She's the project manager. And we have Teresa Galvez, who is the chief transport officer. Good morning, and welcome, and thank you for being here.
Good morning to you too, Marlene, and thanks to everyone for allowing us to share the information regarding the 4th UN Global Road Safety Week. And the theme this year is speed. So what did Belize do? We look at our risk factors in the country, and we know that speed is a major issue and something that we need to deal with. Now,
let's go back for a bit to the general UN Global Road Safety Week and why over the past couple of years it has become a priority even for the United Nations.
Well, in reality, we are in the decade of road safety that started in 2011 and goes to 2020. And the United Nations, the World Health Organization, decided to address it in a very systematic manner globally by looking at all the risk factors that have come out as a result of global research. And each year they would choose one topic of interest. Last year I think it was ensuring safety for pedestrians. This year it is speeding. The important aspect is that every time it's a topic that has to do with behavior. Yes. That has been the commonality. Yeah. Right now, speeding, well, that's under the control of the human being. So that's the idea, to share information as to the risks of having irresponsible behavior and to promote specific measures by governments or private organizations in charge of road safety with the objective of doing that behavioral change.
Now, here's one of the things that I wanted you to address, because I don't think people very often relate driving and traffic accidents with health concerns, and being able to link the two is one that I don't think we take the time to be able to explain. Why is it that road safety and the prevention of accidents, why is it a health priority for the general WHO?
Yeah, very interesting question. In reality, it's a public health issue in the sense that people get sick, the morbidity rate is very high, and people die. And sometimes they don't die individually, they die in groups. Okay, so then knowing the risks that could be prevented, that could be mitigated, that could be controlled. The Pan American Health Organization, or the UN, said, okay, well, let's increase the awareness for the population to take specific measures to mitigate those risks. In this case, speed is one. So it's a matter of the approach in road safety is to address those risk factors.
Actually, why speeding too is because the number of people, not only in Belize but across the globe, that die because they are involved in some type of speeding on the road. And so in high income countries, the UN estimated that 1/4 of the population die due to the cause of speeding. And in low and middle income country, where Belize fit, half of those fatalities are due to speeding. So when we look at Belize's scenario and we see the issues that are occurring and the different risk factors that we have to deal with when fatality occurs on our road system, in reality, we are at that same level. Half of our fatalities are caused because of speeding.
So it's one of our leading causes of death in the country.
Yes.
Well, actually, it's the fourth, according to the Ministry of Health, it's the 4th leading cause of death in the country compared to other illnesses.
But it still puts it on top of the ranks, and it is completely preventable. Now, moving into the area of speeding, because I do want to give it the justice in the time that we have. This is, one, regulated, but two, also a continuous and consistent problem that we see in this country. So when approaching the issue of controlling your speed, for drivers to control their speed, what's your first approach?
Well, we have to understand when we speak about speeding, what it is that we are talking about. And speeding is basically going beyond the speed limit which is posted, and so you refer to that person is speeding, right? Because then if you have a posted sign in a village or so on which is 15 miles per hour or 25 miles per hour and somebody is exceeding that, then basically you're saying that person is speeding, right? Our laws, as we are quite familiar with, is that basically in the villages and towns, it's 15 for bus and trucks and 25 miles for other vehicles, whilst on the highway it's 55 miles for other vehicles and 45 for buses and trucks. However, we know from our surveys that we have been doing that basically more than 90% or so of people are actually speeding beyond on the highway. And so so we know that we have a serious problem with speeding. Again, hence the reason under this Global Road Safety Week, there's the book that came up, which is Managing Speed. It is crucial in respect to, we talk about speeding, but how you manage your speed. You should manage your speed based on different conditions, for example, climate condition, for example, if it is raining, if the road is foggy, and the road is slippery, or smoke on the road because of burning bush, and so we should learn how to manage our speed based on these conditions. So again, as we always say that when it refers to traffic crashes, and we don't speak about traffic accidents, as you know, we speak about crashes, we always look at three basic things: the driver, the vehicle, and the road condition. But the most important one is the driver, right? Because the thing is that is the person who controls that vehicle and who should look at these conditions. So to me, at the end of the day, the driver has a very important role to play in respect to controlling his speed.
Exactly, and managing speed is more so crucial, because if you notice on our highways, people love to overtake on a curve or on a blind hill, and when you take those high, and that's not only high risk, that's extremely high risk, because you don't have visibility, you're unable to see around a curve, you're unable to see when you're going up a blind hill. So what does it take you to wait 3 minutes so that you can have visibility and then you can continue your normal way of driving? So these are things that we need to look at. And managing your speed also involves knowing your vehicle. Because if you have onion skin tires on your vehicle and you're going at a fast speed, something happened, you need to brake, or you fell asleep going off the road, and you're at a high speed, you will experience so many things like slipperiness or
a blowout,
or something of the nature. So managing your speed is very, very crucial.
Now, I'm pretty sure everybody's watching it and saying, I can't remember the last time, let's be honest with ourselves, we drove 55 miles on the highway or have seen other people drive at 55 miles. So it's almost that it is an accepted behavior. And we know that a part of it is resources. You can't monitor everybody. What are some of the risk factors that are reduced when I go from, let's say, 80 or 70 to 55? What am I allowing for in terms of my personal safety and others?
Okay, well,
first of all, the thing is that we are talking about, one, we know that force is equals to mass times acceleration. So of course we have and we have braking distance. So the faster you go, the longer it will take for you to react, right? And so the risks are very high then, because the thing is that speeding on a whole, if you are driving also with your, even with your vision, your peripheral vision is narrowed by the speed, by going faster. If you go at a slow speed, you have your vision is wide, whilst by traveling at a faster speed, you are it is being narrowed, and so you are unable to see and to react to, for example, a child running across the road or something like that. So the risks are very high in respect to speeding. And like I said, braking distance is another thing. The thing is that the faster you go, the longer your braking distance, and you will have more chance of hitting somebody or crashing into somebody. And the impact, for example, and even the injuries that you sustain would be much more greater if you would have been slowing down than you going at a faster speed, especially hitting a solid object, a larger vehicle in front of you. I mean, the impact would be dramatic.
Yes, it's a way how your brain works indeed. Just to complement what Mr. Galvez has just mentioned. What happened is that when you're behind, let's say you're at 30 miles per hour, according to the statistics, if something is in front of you and you're texting, plus you're driving, so you have distracted driving, you have speeding on your hands within a populated area. And when you realize that someone is right in front of you, less than 20 feet away, let's put 20 feet away, the time your brain takes to think takes some seconds. So let's say it takes 3 seconds. Then your brain respond and indicate to your body you need to react. So you have 3 steps that you need to go through: a thinking process, a reaction process, a thinking process, a process that would help you to respond so that you can create the reaction, and then you stop. Now, those are, let's say that would be 3, 6, 9 seconds. Each process takes 3 seconds. In less than 9 seconds, you would kill a child that is 20 feet away from you. Does it worth the while speeding when it's less than a minute you could have taken to be off your phone and driving within less than 20 feet distance? Because according to, based on speed, you should take approximately 1 minute per mile. So if you're taking that 1 minute per mile, then you're able to, as Mr. Galvez said, see at all different angles, rather than having a narrow road to be looking at. So you want to ensure
have enhanced attention.
Yes, and driving is not a right. It's a privilege that you would have to drive. So you should make sure that you do the right things when you're on the road system, because the wrong decision impacts not only you but many other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with Mr. Tisho, we were discussing earlier that in Belize, the entire world, the age group mostly affected is young people. And that says a lot. It says limited experience. I won't say lack of experience, but limited experience, because driving, you accumulate experience as you drive, as years go by. And it also says perhaps no responsibility, no sense of responsibility, or an irresponsible young person. If he or she would say, okay, I'm driving at 70, I'm overtaking in this curve, if they would think, if somebody else is doing the same thing like what I am doing, overtaking in this blind hill, and somebody else is doing the same thing, we will meet and we will crash. It's a fact. But definitely he or she does not think that way, overtaking in the curves in a similar manner. When they do it, and if they continually do it and nothing happens, is because they have been fortunate that nobody else is doing the same thing. And I think that's a challenge for young people, young adults, that they need to recognize that if they are driving irresponsibly and somebody else is doing the same thing, that's a risk. If they are driving irresponsibly and during that moment, for some reason, they need to put a brakes, all of a sudden in a situation where it will be impossible to avoid an accident, or as Ms. Pamela said, the conditions of the tires are such that you will not be able to stop. appropriately. So then, because of that speed, you were unable to control
Yeah.
the vehicle, and it's a matter of Mr. Galvez said he no longer use the word accident; he used crashes. The truth is that when you think on it, it has never been an accident. It's an incident or a crash
Preventable.
waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could
It's a
be-
purposeful choice.
Because
That is right.
if you have the speed, you have a rainy,
You could prevent these things from happening.
a rainy, a slippery road,
No.
overtaking in a hill. It's just a matter of time. The risks are there. It's just a matter of when it will happen.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is for young people to consider that indeed, if they go beyond a certain speed in areas of danger or where there are other risks in the road, the possibility of them controlling the vehicle is extremely low, which means that the opposite would be then the possibility of a risk of an accident
Yeah.
is extremely high.
Yeah.
Based on statistics, it tells you that approximately 62% risk of dying at 65 miles per hour. And many people are at least between Bamopana and Belize City, they are at 80 miles per hour. So if you look at it, the probability of being caught in a traffic crash over a certain speed limit is very high. And what standard is our road built to? Is it built to a 55 miles per hour type of road or a higher road? But those are questions that many would ask. However, drivers don't really take that into consideration and just say, I'm in a best vehicle or I'm in this type of vehicle so I can drive at that type of speed. No,
And
it
I
also
always-
go with airing of the road.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, I always think about it. I mean, in most countries there are regulated speeds. However, when these vehicles are being manufactured, they are manufactured to go 180 miles, and everybody wants to try and see how fast
That's
I
for when
could
they
go.
go to the racetrack.
Right? You know, exactly. I mean, why is it that, you know, and so in order to mitigate or to address some of these problems, you know, some of the things which could be put in place so that people, even though your vehicle comes with a speedometer, most people don't even focus on their speedometer, they just zoom,
Yeah.
right? And so there are gadgets now being introduced now with, other than the speedometer, which people could actually purchase to have on their dashboard, which would basically be set, for example, and would give you a warning to tell you that you are exceeding, apart from the regular posted speed sign that we would put up, and we will put up back those
Static speed sign.
right, which would indicate to drivers that, hey, slow down, you know, you are going above the speed limit.
Yeah.
You know, there are other things put in place to try to alleviate and try to control speed, for example, speed bumps, for example, and yet we see people overtaking on these speed bumps or pedestrian ramps, because most of these pedestrian ramps, as we refer to them in the villages, are put there for two purposes. One, to allow the pedestrian and the school children to pass, and also to slow down the traffic. Yet we have people, sometimes we have vehicles lined up, drivers who are very who recognize the situation, and we have an idiot, I have to call him idiot, coming from the back, who would come speeding and not knowing that a child is looking,
overtaking.
you know, taking that risk to knock down a child at the pedestrian crossing.
And you should never overtake on a pedestrian crossing because you never know what could happen. Anyway, but the
I wanted to touch one more
Yes,
thing on
go ahead.
excessive speeding, because I appreciate the fact that you spoke about the braking time takes longer,
Yes.
and especially the reaction time, because we say, oh, we'll just automatically brake. But you're right, you go through that process. Will I swerve? Will they move? Will they slow down? Before you actually choose how you'll respond. But there is also the factor that when you're driving with excessive speed, that the manipulation of the car itself changes.
Exactly.
that is correct.
Explain that that part.
What
And-
happened with more speed that you have, your steering actually becomes very, you know, the slightest movement that you have in your steering would throw you off. I mean, the thing is that your steering gets very soft. Even if you had a manual vehicle with manual steering, other than the power steering that we refer to power steering, even if you had a manual steering at high speed, that steering becomes very soft, and the slight movement creates, you know, would have some basic reaction with the
I would
vehicle?
say, like, for example, when you throw some marbles on the ground, if you throw the marbles and someone come walking in, what would be the reaction? They would slip easily. But if you had the marbles there and they came walking in, they would be able to maneuver better and may not slip.
Yeah.
So the same thing with your wheel. The wheel becomes very loose and it gets you off guard when you're not when you're at high speed. So when you apply that brakes, somehow the whole system become off balance. And if you're at very high speed, what we haven't mentioned yet is the hydroplaning.
Right. And I was just
So,
going to talk about that because
go ahead.
we are coming into the rainy season.
Yes.
And what happens at some point, sometimes on the road, we have where water settles on the road. And you might not know, and you are coming at high speed, and when you fall into this water, you know, it becomes uncontrollable for you then, and that could lead again to fatal accidents, you know. So we have to be very, very...
In regards to the rainy season, there's also something that sometimes in certain segments of the road, you would have an accumulation of water between the very edge and the extreme right of the road, or the extreme side. If you come at high speed, especially with small vehicles, once the two wheels would enter that water, that splash would create a force on the vehicle because of the speed. The force of the water splashing on the vehicle is such that if you are not careful, it could
Right.
It
Yeah.
affects
could,
your brake system. It
affect
gets-
the equilibrium of the steering. And if you're a driver with limited experience, you either panic or you try to control it, and at that moment you lose control of the vehicle. So for experienced drivers, if you go at high speeds, which you should not, and you encounter those waters, you get a slowdown or you try to avoid it. Sometimes you cannot avoid it. And that is where the speeding comes in. If you're at an appropriate speed, you should be able to control your vehicle.
You know, I find, and I don't have the stats to prove this, but I also find that part of the problem with speeding comes from the experienced drivers. The professional drivers, the bus drivers, they are, and I mean professional drivers like they drive somebody, or bus drivers. Because they manipulate the roadways so often, it seems that they, and there's a level of confidence that comes with years of experience. I find that they're some of the people who will be driving the fastest on the road as well.
Right, because the thing is that they become so familiar with the road that they know how to manage their speed around certain curves. So they know when to drive at a faster speed on the road that is that they are familiar with, and they know that when a curve is approaching, what to do, and hence the reason I think that they have, with the experiences, and the traveling of the highway on a regular basis every day, they know the areas which they should slow down. They know where they know exactly where a pothole is on the road, and so they could avoid these things. Again, talking about speeding in respect to size of vehicle, for example. For example, a bus, for example, traveling at high speed with all these people inside the bus.
Who don't have a seatbelt.
And exactly, and people standing in the aisles and all these things. So it's a very high risk and thing. And I think that, like I said, to me, at the end of the day, it's driver behavior.
It doesn't matter how experienced you are, in my view. It's the approach you take when you're on the road. And you need to be very careful. You can't want to be, and I always mention this, from Belize City to Belmopan in less than 30 minutes, especially with passengers in your bus. You're responsible for many lives in that bus, and no matter how experienced they are, like for example, they do try to take risks around curves where they apparently can see. But once we noticed that when a specific driver that had over 20 odd years of experience driving took that risk, ended up off the road. Fortunately, nothing happened to anyone because the experience allowed the driver to be able to maneuver well when the person was off the road. But supposing that person was not able to control that vehicle, or if it was a ditch there, and that no matter how experienced you are, and that bus overturned, how many people would have been affected?
And a key part, I would imagine, is that your behavior, while it puts you at risk, also puts many others at risk as
That is
well.
correct.
So if I am choosing to drive at 55, because I want to adhere to the speed limits that are established, and somebody else is engaging in risky behavior, I become at risk as well.
Oh, yes.
And we've all seen that, where people recklessly overtake or speed or do something to put us at risk. So let's talk the punitive side. And I know we always get into this, and part of the challenges are the same. But ultimately, it really seems that, you know, we won't necessarily, and behavior change is a funny thing, because you want to encourage people to make that choice, but at the same time, I feel because of the lack of consequences other than the major consequence of a crash, people don't necessarily take it seriously.
Well, the thing is that we do have our highway patrol vehicles on the corridor, as you know. We have other enforcement out district in respect to the use of the speed gun, for example. It was basically used for us to do surveys at this point in time, as I had mentioned on many talk shows right now. The thing is that the speed gun that we use right now does not produce a digital readout, which you could use in court.
Yeah.
And so basically it is being used specifically to do surveys to see what exactly is happening out there, which we all know that vehicles are speeding.
Yeah.
However,
You said it's an average of 80 on the George Price?
It's between 70, 80 miles per hour. Yeah, that's the speed
That's
that
based on the statistics survey that
right.
the Department of Transport
and
is
what we are looking for now, I think we is to seek the new device which will then capture the license plate number of the vehicle, right, and actually a photograph of the vehicle, and will produce this printout. I must say that we have not ventured into trying the system, and I think that we can do that, and I will say it publicly because I have been in contact with somebody from LAPD, and what they are saying is that even though, as long as you are an enforcement vehicle on the highway, police car, and you are driving and your speedometer on your car is indicating that you are going 60 miles per hour, and any other vehicle that passes you at that beyond that speed, you have all right to charge that person for speeding because they are exceeding the speed that you have on your dashboard, and they believe that the police vehicle is, and the speedometer is working on that vehicle.
Yeah.
So I am saying publicly right now that we could venture into testing that system, because the thing is that if we have our highway patrol vehicles out there, and those vehicles and the speedometers are working, and that could be tested at any time based on this signpost to verify whether or not you could, if you move from this point and you reach to another point, and you could calculate then you know that your speedometer is, basically your speedometer is like minus 5 or 10%, what you call it, yeah, you know. So you could test that system without even waiting for the actual speed gun, which would actually show your license plate and all these things. So, I mean,
has the highway patrol unit made a habit of intercepting drivers? Is that a practice at this point?
yes, they do. They do stop vehicles from time to time on the road, and to just warn the drivers, say, you know that you are speeding. As I said before, is sometimes speeding depends on the road condition, on what presents itself. For example, you will find that people would tend to speed when they are alone, basically on a long stretch of road.
Yeah.
Traveling again, you have the other side of the coin too, where even a person traveling at lower speed become risk also on the road sometimes for other people.
Yeah.
Right? If they are not driving within a reasonable speed, and
Yeah.
so you know, you have speeding, and then people who actually below the speed limit who are risky.
So perhaps to put a range in place.
Right.
Yes.
You know?
Now, a lot of these things come with legislative changes, and even the enforcement of things like the speedometer,
Right.
not the speedometer, the same test on the road to check how fast people are going. Many have argued that this is not within our legislations and perhaps will not be enforceable.
It's in the law. I have the as a matter of fact, the statutory instrument SI number 181 of 2003 specifically has for the use of the speed gun, so it is legislated there, you know.
So I also want to talk a little bit about Dr. Polanco, because as we started off the conversation looking at the death rate of persons from traffic accidents, it's not only the fatalities that are of concern, it is also a heavy burden on the healthcare systems as well.
Yeah, that is correct. The Pan American Health Organization in 2007 assisted government in doing an economic impact study. The study was published in 2009. And there it showed that the country spends $34 million per year in medical expenses.
Wow.
34 million, that was then. And that is only the economic impact. It did not take into consideration the social impact. For example, all those families that the children can no longer go to school because the father died, or somebody died and they had to the mother had to maybe leave their children and go to work, leading to other social issues, which we are all aware. So, and that was discussed recently within our office and the national authorities to look at data analysis. The Ministry of Economic Development, under where the project falls, has already expressed that data analysis is a priority. So we have had preliminary discussions to begin looking in that direction to put together a social impact study. It will take us time. But it is a priority, and that in itself will show everybody this is the cost of road traffic in Belize. Not only the morbidity, but that burden, that social burden that results directly due to the that information we don't have. But of course, our experience already as a country, the burden in regards to medical care. Different persons have expressed it. Those persons, just let me use one example. For example, a head injury. A head injury could easily cost over $100,000 here in Belize. That's just one.
Yeah.
So that's just the expense to the government. Apart, you have the expense to the families.
Yeah, because the lingering effects of something like that will stay with you, whether it's physical therapy that you have to go through, or loss of employment. Now, and I mean, even when you think of things like the demand on the blood bank to be able to have a blood supply available for persons who've been in accidents.
That's great.
Yeah. So, with all of that said, let's go through what is actually regulated. And I want to speak as well, we didn't touch on motorcycles, which are also on the roadways as well, speed limits for the different categories.
Yes.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, basically motorcycle would fall under other vehicles, and so those would be the same for highways, which is like the 55 miles per hour.
Yeah.
However, we have these fast ninja bikes on the road, and so obviously, like I said, the way to address those would be by having the correct device to measure those speeds there, in respect to those vehicles. I wanted to just point out too also that basically the amendment which was made in respect to fines and penalties for offenses, basically when it referred to speeding is a serious offense under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, which carries a penalty of up to $1,000 if they find you guilty. It's $1,000 plus whatever it could be court fine, and it could also come fine and confine. It could also be that you have to serve probably 9 months in prison or both, such fine. Offenses which are under the regulation basically is $500 for if you are found guilty. Those are minor. Those are considered minor offenses under the regulation. Speeding is a serious offense, just like reckless driving, for example. Because you would say, well, speeding, reckless driving, they are both the same. But when it comes to reckless driving, again, it's not having regards for other people on the road, for example, where, for example, a driver they're driving recklessly when they know that several persons or people are in the vicinity and they are being reckless. and or splashing people with water when they see that the road has, those are considered reckless driving, and they carry a heavy penalty. Okay, so yes.
That's good ammunition for people who are walking on the streets as well. But on the highways, and it's specific for the highways, it's 55 for motor vehicles.
Right.
That's your limit.
That's your limit.
And
45 for trucks.
45 for trucks and buses.
As it is right now, yes. But
and
also
motorcycles would be
same thing.
Same speed.
45 or 55?
Oh, 55.
55.
But
okay.
also the minister responsible for transport also has the authority if, for example, if they consider that in certain areas of the road they would want to increase the speed to or reduce or increase within a certain posted signs, the minister also has that authority also to do that. For example, if you know that this is open road and you could have the speed limit increased from 55 to 65, as long as it is posted there and the minister signed that order, then that is also that can also be done within posted signs. Okay, and just like how you would find, for example, in San Pedro, speed limit in San Pedro, for example, is like 15 miles per hour on the main road streets there. You know, and so whatever signs or whatever speed limit that you'd want to institute could be done by introducing a statutory instrument. For example, around school zones. For all these things could be put in place. If there is high risk, they could put in speed limit along these places, and as long as the minister signs that order, then it's just a matter of to enforce. And sometimes we have this tendency to introduce laws and then we don't have the enforcement capabilities to do that. No.
Yeah, and of course, when near a village or a community or a school, that speed limit decreases to 25 and 15, right?
Well, basically, that's like within the villages and so forth. And so, yes, we have many instances where the highway passes through villages and so on. Sometimes probably we have discussed that several times, and probably it's not really practical to have that on the highway. That's why I say it could be where you have posted signs. You could have signs which would indicate, if you travel other countries, whenever you are approaching a village, you'd have a sign which, before you enter that village, telling you are now approaching this village, slow down, because you have people there. So it all depends on the signs posted, to control those things. Right. And you have rumble strips. For example, you have rumble strips being put across to give you an indication, because you hear it on your tires, so you know that you are approaching a village, and you automatically slow down.
Actually, on the demonstration corridor, you have a specific area where, by the sanitary landfill, the speed limit there is 10 miles per hour. Why? Because heavy trucks are coming out from that area and going in. So drivers need to be extremely careful within those areas. Probably it's not on a regular basis, but you never know when it's your turn when you're passing through there.
Yeah, and it's a good warning mechanism for people in the event that something is coming out at the same time. So let's have our final messages, and before we do, we do have to remind everybody that the speeding is also, or the reduction of speed should also be complemented by consistent use of seatbelts and helmets if you're on motorcycles, right? So let's do final messages as to why we need to control our speed. Doc?
Well, speeding, apart from being the reason with a higher frequency associated to deaths, it is also associated to other behavioral issues such as drinking, the conditions of the tire, the conditions of the road. And many times it's a combination of all of those. And the important thing is that if you have all those, but the speed is controlled, the risk for an accident is lower. And vice versa. The higher the speed, the higher the risk for accidents, even if the other risks are not present. So actually the purpose, or one of the objectives of this week globally, is to increase awareness among all drivers, especially young people.
Yeah. Pam?
Okay, the road safety project, the Ministry of Economic Development, along with financial partnership from the Caribbean Development Bank, joins the United Nations Global Road Safety Week to promote speeding. And speeding, we know, is a major cause of traffic crashes in our country. So we encourage the general public to be focused, try to do the right thing, see how we can get others involved, put your mitigation plan in place. And what is a mitigation plan? That means that if you normally take an hour to reach a destination, add on 30 minutes more to that hour. If you can, add on another hour. But at least add on additional time so that you can reach your destination if you should have delays on the road. Like, for example, bicycle riders. Respect the bicycle riders who are on the road. If someone would have a flat tire and they would stop in the middle of the road, you'd have enough time probably to even help them to fix their tire and move on to your destination. If you see children crossing, or even adults or people on foot crossing a certain area, slow down, give them way. You're in a vehicle, you're in a motorized transport. The vulnerable users, they're on feet and they don't have the protection that you in a wheel would have. It's better to be 15 minutes late than not to be there early, have to deal with a road traffic crash, or need to pick up some bodies. So your life is important, and road safety is everyone's business.
Well, basically, I like to say that the global UN Global Road Safety Week basically is from the 8th to the 14th. However, I like to say that we should not just look at a week in respect to speeding or all these issues, that it should be something that we do on a daily basis. From my department, I would like to say that we will be engaged in going out to schools during this week to visit schools. Some schools have already requested for officers to go and speak to the children them. I would like to ask the police department also to assist for at least for this week, and during their VCPs, checkpoints and patrols, to address some of the concerns that we raise. Look at the speeding situation on the road. We also have the situation with the municipalities, who also play an important role in traffic management and control of vehicles. So we would like for them to come on board also during this time.
All right. Any activities coming up in the rest of the commemoration of the week?
Yes, actually what we'll be doing is doing presentations in schools, in particular along the demonstration corridor. We had the pre-race with the Ariel Rosado ride on Saturday that kicked off the UN week. Then we are doing the booths at the different police headquarters, and we will do the appearance on different media houses throughout the week. And we have a video, 40-second video that is being aired on all the media houses. In addition, we have flyers that will be given out all around the country, and it has some simple message: control speeding. The higher the speed of the vehicle, the higher the risk of injury and death. And so the statistics that was shared early on, in terms of 20% of dying at 30 miles per hour, that is proven across the globe. And it's no different here in Belize. 62% risk of dying at 65 miles per hour. So should our speed limit be higher, or should our speed limit be the same, or should it be lower? Or should we look at seeing how we can work with the existing speed limit that exists, and what is the involvement with the Ministry of Works, where you have the engineers, the professionals who actually determine the type of road and the type of speed that goes along with that road. So road safety has a multidisciplinary approach to dealing with it. It's not only transport, it's not only infrastructure, but it's a different discipline: transport, infrastructure, health, education, communication.
And of course the individual drivers as well.
Yes, part of their behavioral attitude. And the curriculum in schools will help over time to curb the behavior. And normally it takes a decade to curb behavior. But we are hoping that Belize is a small country. It does not need to take a decade because it's your responsibility.
Well, I think what part of the conversation today is to inspire individuals to want to make that change. And hopefully we will all learn from, I think, what is your tagline here, fast is fatal.
I think the thing is that the more informed people are, the better, you know. It's because sometimes looking at experience, for example, when you're growing up, your mother will tell you, don't do this, because she knows that she has experience of it, but you want to experience it for your own self. Until you have experienced it, then you realize that, you know, that's like Dr. Polanco mentioned about people.
Well, we don't want to have the first-hand experience of a fatal crash, because that's all the experience you'll get. So let's remember, fast is fatal, and thank you all for stopping in and showcasing or allowing us to learn more about the consequences of speeding on the roads.
Thank you, too.
All right, we're going to go ahead now and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking to representatives of Galen University about some new programs, their master's programs they're introducing, so stay tuned.